That shirt looks extra black. Is it new?
I don't know. Maybe. Or
Maybe
it might
it's
have been
your
hanging
soul shining through.
It could have been hanging in my closet with 100 other black T-shirts, as we all know. What's happening? Are we live?
I think we're live. I think we are. The lights are on, so Logan said that means we're live.
Let's see.
Yes.
I'll check you out.
And that's what we're starting with on that screen?
Nope, I'll put it down if you'd like.
Cool on my end.
And your
so it's
emails
one
are
more
uploaded,
minute.
your email applications.
Yep.
I don't know if we're live or not, so is Logan able to tell us?
Yeah, that's what the light means.
I just don't see it on Instagram, but...
All right, now I see us.
Starting.
So I think that we're actually here and live. And what's happened, everybody, for joining us today. Dana, Adrian, hello.
Hello.
Great to be back with you guys. So we're going to jump right in and talking about Britney and everything that's been going on. We're taking a specific angle and approach today, which just we all think is very important. We know a lot of people watching right now live also would agree with. And Adrian, Dana, why don't you kind of take it and set that up, why we're doing today's specific episode live?
Well, earlier this week, a documentary was released. The New York Times presents Framing Britney Spears, and that, of course, stirred up new feelings about what has happened in the media and the way society has really treated, Britney, and also the topic of just mental health, right, has come up. And like looking back, was she treated fairly when it's clear that someone is going through, a struggle, a hard time, and we all seem to pick on the person that is already down,
Right.
And so that's what
And
we
the
want to
factors
talk
that go into that we'll touch on as well. And I know, Dana, we're going to pull up some clips that we have that have already been, a lot of people have been commenting on them. A Diane Sawyer interview with Britney, which, we'll show clips of that. Yeah. I'll speak for itself, and you will as well. Some other clips as well. People probably have seen a bunch of them. It's an opportunity for us to talk through them. We also want to ask everyone who is watching, and when there's a bunch of people extremely interested in this, we want to also bring up any questions or topics that you guys want to, any examples that maybe we don't get to today, or whether we do or not, just go on to our YouTube, and we're already flooding with a lot of questions and comments from people, so we'll take those.
Sorry, I forgot I was connected to the screen.
I hear my voice. So, so starting off, and really, well, first thing is, a lot, as people know, most people know, for us, our main involvement started when we did an interview on our podcast, as Not Seen on TV, with Britney Spears a while back in July. And that interview is still there in its full entirety. And I think about 60, 70,000 people watched it yesterday, or the day before even. And it's, 7 months old, so it's getting a lot of attention. It was in a documentary that came out recently. We've made some, comments about that. But by and large, we're very glad that the overall documentary and the latest news about Britney is having a positive impact, hopefully, towards her situation and that of others. Light. Hopefully. So, but it kind of started for us opening our eyes to it with an interview that we did with Britney Spears, and then we've kind of been riding shotgun along with a lot of the great people from the Free Britney movement and a lot of great different social media groups and individuals who've been really impressive and played a huge role in where this is at right now. So why don't we jump in and, Dan, I know you're beyond passionate, and obviously we all are, but you want to say something? I know, I could see it's like...
I always want to say something. I just want to throw it out there that right now, for most of us women living in today's day and age, we embrace each other. When somebody wears a sexy outfit, it's like, you go. Like, that's what we try to strive for, at least what I see anyway. Yeah. I feel like Britney grew up in a time where she was just crucified for everything she did.
Yeah.
Like what men could get away with and what so many other people could get away with. But the interviews that they showed in the documentary, I was beside myself.
Yeah.
I think we need to redo interviews with them, ask them personal questions.
Yeah, it really is crazy. And those are all the things that we want to dig in today and talk about, all of these reasons that Britney was crucified, starting with her sexy outfits, her virginity, which is such a hot topic, which is crazy to think about as a young girl. Why are you even talking about sex and virginity in the first place? What she apparently did to Justin Timberlake. I think that's something we want to cover.
Did to him, did with him, what have you. Yeah. However you want to phrase it.
Of course, her breakdown and potential mental health issues, and then, of course, her being labeled as a bad mom, and going through all of her things. So
And I think for us, and a lot of people watching as well, and around the world right now, we've been hearing it left and right. I mean, I went to Starbucks yesterday to grab a coffee, and the people behind the counter, like the podcast, come on over, and everyone within Starbucks, everyone trying social distancing with masks, and there's 7 people inside and 5 people outside now are like talking about the Britney thing. But the question becomes this: is now you're seeing all these things in the media about what a mean interview this was that this person did, and it was so mean when Jay Leno did that, which it was, and so terrible then I just mentioned her name, the lady with the interview that we're going to show, Diane Sawyer. Yeah. And there were a few brave people who stood up. We're going to touch on those as well. But it's really the same media now who's saying this was so terrible, why they did it. But it was the media that did it before. And why did it take so long until now to say this is terrible, this is horrible? I mean, by and large, the world dumped on this young girl who, so that's a big part of it is that people love to be on the winning side, whether it's genuine or whether it's just choosing to pick a side when it's convenient for you. And it seems like, a lot of the people now, especially in the media, are guilty day in and day out of doing the same exact thing over and over again to people, even to this day. Yeah.
And I think that what we really want to get through today is like, can we all take a step back and think about how are we potentially contributing to, this? Like, let's be honest, we've all bought probably a tabloid because of some sort of crazy headline or something.
On every flight in my 20s.
Exactly. And so it's just kind of thinking about, how we make an impact to help people rather than put them down.
Honestly, I think it's still going on a little bit right now because people are passing around her Instagram laughing or kind of like, look how she's acting. If you're alarmed, maybe share that you're alarmed to help raise awareness like the rest of the world is to see if she's okay.
Yeah.
There's nothing to make fun of when it comes to mental illness.
So let's pull up. I know you're working the clips. What's the first one that you want to show?
So the first clip is from a Diane Sawyer interview that was on the New York Times Presents, and this is when she asked Britney about sort of her what she's wearing. So hold on, let me just play.
I could just feel the discomfort watching.
I know.
Played it close to the line on how much skin she showed. Posed like this for Esquire magazine. Consider the line officially crossed.
What happened to your clothes?
I have on clothes now.
I know. But what's this about? No kidding. What is it?
Let me ask you guys a quick question. Has anyone, and we'll go back and watch the rest of it, I'm just curious, as it comes up, are there any shirts of Justin Bieber from his times like that where he actually had a shirt on? Or, I mean, I remember I was saying the other day that somehow a picture of Justin Bieber's, privates, I think this is what we'll say without YouTube flagging us, ended up being out there on the internet. And I think his father had made a comment on Twitter, some social media, laughing and complimenting how proud he was of his boy's, junk. So that in itself, to have a award-winning journalist with a history like Diane Sawyer to say, consider the line crossed, even itself, like,
right?
Is that journalism or is that judgment 101 right there?
Totally,
so let's play the rest. I want you guys to weigh in on that.
What is it about? What is it about? Yeah, it's about a beautiful picture.
Is it about shocking people?
About shocking? You know what? I feel comfortable in my skin. I think it's an okay thing to express yourself. Have you seen? No, I hate to bring this up, but Kate Hudson, she's 22. She's in Sheets. Jennifer Lopez, she poses very provocatively sometimes. Christina Aguilera, what's the big deal when I'm doing it? Like, come on,
Isn't there an answer?
Well said, by the way. I mean, yeah, that's such an inappropriate question in the first place, but I think Britney actually said it very well. Like, I'm not the only one. And also she said she has self-love. She has body confidence. And it's not about shocking or being sexy. She's proud of herself.
Talking to her like she's her daughter and she's like shaming her for it. I think she's a little jealous. I
want to go to Diane Sawyer's answer to your point. But before that, one of the things that comes up there too, first of all, I agree with you that and I don't know how old Britney Spears was at the time of that interview. Obviously young. But the difference is that her answer was quite good, but she also mentioned several people who also at the same time have posed provocatively, or whatever you want to call it, whether it's provocatively or not. Again, I'm not trying to be judgmental in any way, so I don't mean that. But she brought up Jennifer Lopez. She brought up several other people, and she's spot on. But the difference is that these people were grown-ups and adults when they became famous, many of them, and they always made their own decisions with a clear state of mind, being a mature adult. They could have decided not to. There's a big factor when you have a young child who has been in front of the spotlight almost their whole age, from the Mickey Mouse Club on up.
Right.
And, there's always an unknown element of what role the parents played in either encouraging or pushing or forcing. Nobody knows in any scenario. So I think one of the biggest horrors of this whole thing is the complete lack of any empathy or acceptance of a lot of these things that we'll see, that this is not someone who at the age of 30 in Hollywood finally hit it big after chasing her dream for 15 years, waiting tables and everything else. This is someone who was a child and grew up in front of all of this and does not deserve to be targeted this way in any way.
For nothing. She's a performer. What do you buy tickets to go to a show for? Does he have performance on? Do you want her to be wearing baggy sweatpants and something else? It comes with it.
Right. What did she say on this, Diane Sawyer? What was her response to that?
I think she, yeah.
Sorry. Hold on. Let me go
she
back.
She said something about, but aren't you supposed to be a role model for kids of some sort?
Sorry.
Did they say that on tickets?
How about be a role model for your own kid?
A beautiful picture. Is it about shocking people? About shocking? You know what? I feel comfortable in my skin. I think it's an okay thing to express yourself. Have you seen? I hate to bring this up, but Kate Hudson.
Sorry, went back too far.
She's okay. Now those are a little much. Yeah, those are a little much. At the end of the shoot, I was like, all right, let's go ahead and do it, and then let's jet. And I didn't have approval over the thing. So that's one picture, I must say, that I felt kind of weird about. Yeah.
Wish you hadn't done it.
A little bit, yeah, to be honest. But hey, it's done and I'll learn from it and I'll never be put in that position.
I don't know. I kind of feel like she was pushed into that answer, honestly, with that picture.
I think it was a good answer where she said, I wasn't happy with it. I learned from it and I moved on. I mean, if any of my daughters ever gave that answer for anything that I've said, whether it was putting a dish away or not doing their homework or lying about whether they were wearing their braces or not, if they genuinely felt remorse and said that they've learned from it and moved on. What else are you looking for? Nail themselves to a cross?
Exactly.
Exactly. Pull up some pictures of Madonna, a grown woman who certainly had things that were 1,000 times as or more provocative. Diane Sawyer.
Yeah, for sure.
It's hard not to be pretty slanted. And I'd say, I think it's fair to say that, we're among the millions of people who are openly pretty irritated at putting it lightly.
Well, I just think it's so strange that people are so upset that she's clearly growing up. She did start as this younger woman, talking about virginity and all these, and now we're all shocked that she's growing into a woman. It's yeah. What did you expect?
Little girl didn't think you're supposed to wait till marriage. That's what you're taught, and that's what you think at a certain age or a certain religion. Some people stick. Most people don't. That was personally what shocked me the most out of this entire interview. Not only did they open the show with her first love, her first time. Are you kidding me? You're going to open with her first time? How much more personal does it get? Imagine Drew Plotkin and his first time. What?
Of all the examples out there.
You're the one I'm looking at.
Right.
I actually don't want to think about that.
Right.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I was about to
It was a marriage, wasn't it?
I was about to throw it to you guys. I'm still excited for whenever it happens. One day. I thought when you guys came into my office yesterday and we were talking about this, you guys were hot, livid about the difference. And it was the Timberlake thing that really, on top of everything else, where you guys were how he was a hero and the dude not. So let's talk about that for a second, about the contrast in how Justin Timberlake was portrayed versus Britney. And I know you guys, hit on a really relevant topic that I saw a lot of people who texted me and emailed me about over this whole story, especially from women, was that how a young woman, how Britney was treated differently versus someone like Justin Bieber or Timberlake or a guy or some of the male rapper, whoever it is, but the woman is treated so differently. What do you think about that?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. No, I don't even know where to start, honestly. But apparently Britney did something to Justin. Of course, there were the rumors of cheating and breaking his heart, so he kind of had the upper hand on that narrative, I guess. But then, we can play the clip, but then he was seen kind of boasting about having sex with her, before marriage, and meanwhile, Britney is criticized for it and crucified for.
Did you remember anyone coming out and hammering Timberlake for his?
Not to my knowledge.
Everyone's watching. Maybe they know something. I mean, we're getting a lot of different comments. But yeah, it's a really crazy thing.
Oops, sorry. I was going to play this clip about the Justin Timberlake thing.
I think I'll let the song just speak for itself.
Okay, you can bop me. I have to ask a couple of things about Justin.
Okay, of course.
He just got on television and pretty much said, you broke his heart. You did something that caused him so much pain, so much suffering. What did you do?
What did you do?
I was upset. I was upset for a while. I think we're both really young.
Could you pause for a sec? So now, you would think with her fake drama and her dragging out the words, and I mean, most people don't know this, you guys know this, but I was in TV news a million years ago before we got into the world of being out in LA. I mean, that's a technique. I mean, you go in tight on the face, you hold on the face with the camera very still. The other person on the other end, Diane, asks a question, slowly drags out there. It creates a feeling and a sense of guilt and shame. It's an absolute technique that people use all the time. It's used in interrogations, it's used in news, and that is exactly what she's doing. You would think, and I will play dance, but we will think that if I just heard her saying that and didn't know the story, I would think that Diane Sawyer was setting up that she tried to stab Justin Timberlake, cut off a vital part of his body that he certainly would want later in life, or did something 50 times beyond any of those. That's the way she's setting this up and shaming this girl. And now let's watch what this is about for real.
Kind of waiting to happen, and I will always have a special place in my heart. He is such a great person.
But you said, I've only slept with one person in my whole life, 2 years into my relationship with Justin. And yet he's left the impression that you weren't faithful, that you betrayed the relationship.
I think everyone has a side to their story, and to make them feel a certain way, and make them feel, and I'm not technically saying he's wrong, but I'm not technically saying he's right either. So, this feels really awkward right now.
Timberlake has made a kind of sport out of public retaliation. On a popular morning drive radio show in New York promoting his album, he has a kind of gleeful confession about their very private life.
Top 97, the Star Buckwell Morning Show. Justin Timberlake is in the house. And I just want to ask you one question. Did you Britney Spears? Yes or no?
Oh, man.
Come on, man.
Okay, I did it. No.
It was a really weird.
I wonder if he has regret over that. I'm so curious. What do you guys think? Drop us a comment. I wonder if he feels like terrible looking
Maybe
back.
now as a dad. But
Right?
real quick, if you read between the lines of what Diane was just saying to Britney, she was saying, you said you've only slept with one person and you waited 2 years into your relationship, but he's saying you were unfaithful. I think she's pretty much also saying, you're a liar. You slept with more people. He's like, do you hear her?
Right.
Judgy.
Yeah.
Who are you?
Yeah.
Let's go even a second on. I mean, that sounded like the frat boy club over there with the high fives and everything. So, I mean, look, regret's a genuine thing for some people, whether he has or not. I have no idea. I don't know him, didn't ask him. what have you. I don't know if he's made any statements of late on this that weren't canned or written by a publicist, but the whole thing that just can't be skipped over is the commentary of when people say misogynistic and male toxicity. I mean, man, that's the epitome of it. That was just the bros. That was just whether you want to call it locker room talk or whatever else. I mean, and so where is the condemnation on Justin Timberlake? Does he get another pass for that, or should he have to make some type of not have to, but?
I mean, I know. That's why I'm curious to hear what you guys think. Leave us a comment. But it does, I mean, for me personally, and like you said, like he's a father now, he's married. I think they were 21 or something, 20s when they broke up. I mean, I think it'd be a decent thing to just have a little statement of If
he does, it's for his own image.
Well,
let's be honest.
Yeah, that's probably right. You're right. But
Dana likes to cut to the chase, so.
Forced apologies are not apologies.
All right. No need to apologize, Mr. Timberlake. Dana says it is not going to be accepted either way.
We just don't like you.
Let's talk about that window where a lot of people said, and when we were doing the podcasts about Britney and we got to speak to a lot of great people from the Free Britney movement, it kind of became universal worldwide, at least, that when people talked about her meltdown, whatever the media was referring to it as, it was synonymous or time-wise very much so with the episode of where she shaved her head, and it was all over the news and the media. So going back to that, there's a picture that I think that you were going to pull up, and it leads to another video where it had the Family Feud thing, and it had the picture of her. Did I send it to you, or can you grab the screen grab of it? Maybe I forgot to, but all right,
this one.
And then there was there's a daily news picture as well where she was on the front page of it. I don't know if it's on there or if I've never sent it to you, because I tend to say I'm going to do things and I forget to.
Yeah, I thought it was an ad on there.
Sorry, Drew, I'm not seeing it. Oh, here? No.
Yeah, but it was all right. I didn't send it to you, but I grabbed it earlier. But there's a picture around the same time that came out as Britney on. Here, I'm going to send it to you right now, Adrian.
Okay.
In case you want to pull it up, since I made such a big deal out of it, and it is relevant because it's something that is so synonymous or people are tied to.
Oh, by the way, while you're looking that up, we're getting a lot of comments about Justin Timberlake and that there's clips of him in concerts talking about Britney as she was crazy. She was told to go to rehab. So apparently he has some comments about her that he probably shouldn't be saying in public, but that's Justin Timberlake.
Ghostface Ranka mentions he also cheated on his wife.
I mean,
full circle.
I saw stuff in the tabloids, but let's not try to get overly sued today. Then just say the word allegedly, so that I could at least have a few less lawsuits this year, whether they're coming from us or coming at us. It's Okay, well, I just sent it to you, so maybe
email?
just.
Would you like me to open my email?
Yeah, you can do that and just pull that up. But basically, what had happened is in the picture, not that it's a big surprise, everybody's familiar with it at this point, but it became a very, I don't want to say iconic, because usually that's in reference to something positive. I think I could be wrong, but very memorable. Where she was on the front page of every publication, pretty much, in a really unbelievably hard moment. And then Family Feud, even a game show, what's supposed to be a family game show, right? The TV, the dinner hour of the family, games and everything else. And it's, the host is hugging and kissing everyone and handshakes and all this stuff. And then, you want to play that, either the video clip from the Family Feud, and I know this has been getting a ton of buzz lately because it was shown recently in a documentary, but let's someone who's clearly having, well, I guess people didn't see it that way, but.
Hold on, I'm looking for the clip. This one?
See if this is it.
Name something Britney Spears has lost in the past year. Husband, let's see how that.
That's terrible.
And now go back up, Adrian, to the actual screen, what shows what the answers were across the board. So all of the things that this young lady that they're saying, I mean, to be made a mockery on a national game show, I mean,
no wonder she lost it. I mean, think of all the things we go through in private, you know?
Yeah.
No wonder she lost it public. Yeah.
we did a podcast a couple of days ago where we had a rising TikTok star, and she was giving advice on acne to her followers on TikTok, and we had a dermatologist, and the top of acne came up, and I shared my own personal story that I had a bad breakout when I was younger and took an F on a public speaking project because I was so humiliated with having what I called a pizza face at the time as a young kid. But I was a freshman in college. I mean, I wasn't like a baby or anything, and that's how it affects you. And you're sitting here, she's lost her children, her fans, her husband, her mind, her respect, her hair. I mean, what can you possibly do more damage to someone's psyche or be crueler?
Yeah. I think the answer is no.
Not for
honestly.
nothing, too. We were just talking about this morning. This all happened after she had 2 babies in a year and started a custody battle that she finally lost it. Like, for all of us now who have known someone who's gone through a custody battle or losing their kids or anything along, like, can you even imagine it being a mockery?
No, and I think just like you said, we're in our private lives, it's enough to make someone, feel a certain way, yet, to be in the spotlight like she was, and to have things like this, like Family Feud and comedians and people paparazzi
in her face.
and all of that on top of her, and then probably to feel a little bit like her family maybe is also not 100% on her side. It's probably, a very lonely place to be in, and it's not right.
I was trying to look up a specific name because there was a football player who recently came out and he was praised and with tremendous support, which I'm glad he did because he should, where he referenced that he suffered from depression and had suicidal thoughts, and actually I believe tried to commit suicide at one point, and he was public and open about it. And it was a wonderful thing that he was so well praised as it's okay, you don't have to have that tough guy, whatever image. And as I was even looking that up, I was remembered of Junior Seau, the very famous, unbelievable MVP football player who committed suicide. And you think of all of these different examples when someone does die a tragic way. I mean, we had a few years ago, back to back. We had Kate Spade, the designer, and then the next day Anthony Bourdain, and it just rocked people inside out.
Yep.
Robin Williams before that. And it's one thing that in a society we get to, it's chilling, it's awful. Why didn't they speak to if only they had so much. Now imagine on top of it, I remember when Anthony Bourdain died, so tragic, and people would say, well, he had everything. Obviously he didn't, but to the outside looking in, he traveled, he did all these wonderful things. Kate Spade was a worldwide famous designer. Robin Williams, medical conditions, but he had a family. None of these people, Junior Seau, none of these people who obviously had demons and things that horrifically pushed them over the edge, they didn't have this.
Right. Yeah.
So, why then be sympathetic as a world when people do go over the edge and lose it if you're one of the people playing the role pushing them?
Yeah.
So are people sympathetic now? Do people care now? And what are they going to do now?
I do think so. And I think that the New York Times Presents has helped people to realize like what's going on. And I have to give a shout out to the Free Britney movement, honestly, because I think when Free Britney movement started, probably people thought that they were a little bit extreme and crazy as a movement. But now looking at, the New York Times and how it's set up, I think, kudos to them, like, who saw it first, who saw that this person was in help first. So
yeah, it's one thing to say something and pass a comment to it, whatever, and another thing to build to spark a movement around it, and to be there from the beginning and take it all. And there's a lot of, and that's what's so impressive about these people many of the people in the Free Britney movement. We've met with a bunch of them at a court hearing that we were at one time covering on our own podcast. I know there's a court hearing about 30 minutes from now that we're going to be wrapping up this podcast right before that court hearing starts, because we have some friends that have their own podcast that they're going to go live with from the hearing, right?
Virtual rally. Yeah.
Yep, is going to be doing a virtual rally. Where are people going to check that out at?
So if you go to, oh my gosh, I thought I
Not
had
yet,
it
not
up.
for a half hour. We're bringing it up now. Don't leave us because we're loving all this stuff flooding in that we want to be talking about.
Here we go. I'll show the link on the screen here. freebritney.army. And then you can go to the virtual rally here. There's a meeting ID and passcode.
And I know Lisa is one of the people who's on our page right now, and she's been commenting quite a bit. She's been an advocate, and many people as well, obviously. But and really, again, one of the things that brought us into this, here was the joke that, and wrong term of word, but I think people get it. We were talking about it earlier today. Adrian and I got on a client call in the Midwest with a brand, and I think there were 9 or 10 people from this brand on the Zoom with Adrian and I, from the senior vice presidents on down, and $1 billion company of some sort, or hundreds of millions, whatever it is. And we're about to finalize a huge campaign that goes live, and the first thing everyone said is what, when we got on the Zoom?
We saw you on the documentary, the New York Times
right, the whole so this thing, and then the next person jumps in and goes, man, those journalists were so vicious to her. Diane Sawyer was, and the other person brings up Jay Leno, where, again, I've been a Jay Leno fan. I've seen him perform live. I think generally he's great. We're not out on a witch hunt. I hope he comes out, if he hasn't, and shares a perspective of, hey, comedy is comedy, but some things should be off limits.
I agree.
And that's something we want to touch on as well. And, what is fair game? What is off limits? Obviously, I think in the case of Britney, so many things should have been off limits that weren't, or anyone in that situation. But what I'm going back to is what's exciting us to be involved with this topic has really been that the Britney movement is the spark, and Britney's the spark of it, but it impacts so many other people that are not famous, that aren't singers or performers, that may be in a conservatorship against their will, or in a way that is potentially abusive or allegedly abusive, number one, and how the laws are set up. And number two, the topic, again, of mental health across the board. That's not a Britney Spears isolation topic. That is a huge topic worldwide.
Right.
In Japan,
we can all relate after 2020. And that's just the start of it.
I mean, in Japan right now, the suicide rate of women is off the charts, before getting into COVID and lockdown and everything else, and things have just, gone like this. Again, referencing, we had an amazing young lady, a 19-year-old TikToker who started a TikTok handle, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, and nearly like within a week or so, she had 250,000 people following her on every word. Big Sister Advice. Rachel Conley, amazing young woman, 19 years old, and when she asked her folks, her subs on TikTok, that she was going on this podcast with a dermatologist and us, and what questions do you want to ask? They asked about skincare. They asked a lot of different things. We saw a lot of questions coming in about, will you talk about suicide? Will you talk about mental health issues? These were 13 and 14-year-old girls who were reaching out to what would be a stranger on TikTok, but someone that they felt they could at least basically say, and it was chilling. And also, obviously, we were happy that at least they were being vocal, and we could, open the conversation with these young ladies via, an anonymous way.
Who here has felt off mentally in their lives?
2 hands.
Right.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I'm lifting everything.
And who's recovered from it, with the help of people or support?
Yeah.
Here's my question.
Some days. Some days you do, some days you don't, right?
A time where she may have needed help. Do I think it was malicious to put that in place? I don't think it was malicious. Do I think it is severe for it to be a lifetime? 100%, and that needs to be reevaluated. And not for nothing, in the documentary, there was an attorney who hypothetically was touching on the fact that if somebody agrees to staying in a conservatorship, so if the conservatee agrees to it, almost alluding that Britney probably agreed, they've never seen in their lifetime someone getting out of it. Meanwhile, right after Britney hypothetically could have agreed to it, she was able to see her kids again. Do you think there's a possibility they were dangling visitation over her head?
I mean, just heartbreaking. And I think I made a comment to you this morning that it almost, to me, knowing that makes it feel like she was of very sound mind to get into the conservatorship, knowing that she was going to be able to see her children, because any sane mother would do anything to see her children, versus not. So
someone gets a couple of these. Polly Pocket said her aunt, Britney's aunt, who she was very close to, also died of cancer a month before Britney shaved her head, which again, it might sound like a small thing in the scope of everything, but what it brings up, the point is, just because you don't see it on Good Morning America or some big network doesn't mean that there weren't all of the normal issues that everyone, like the things that we're talking about were so far above and beyond what most people can ever imagine relating to the pressure all of a sudden, and then on top of it, things happen. You lose a relative, you have a relationship go badly, and think of the worst breakup you've ever had with anyone, or think of any breakup.
One thing you just listed brought me to my knees, and I can't imagine having the other 99 things that she had.
Yeah. But now imagine going through any of those things and having them broadcast around the world and having the most negative spin on it. What was the Jay Leno thing? Because I know earlier today, we were when you and I were on that Zoom, and someone brought up how Jay Leno made fun of her in so many things, and people were, I hadn't been aware of that, but you guys were looking it up and had picked up on some of that as well. And again, not picking on Jay, but just saying how widespread this was. And then there's also a really good example. It's been all over the internet, but we want to share it as well afterwards, about a comedian who took a different path. And I think that's absolutely worth calling out and showing, because he was also way ahead of his time, being human, I guess.
I mean, I just have this one clip of the Jay Leno. Just a quick one.
What's a good age to get married? What do you think?
An ideal age? 25.
25. So in 3 years, you'll be married with 2 kids.
Oh, I don't.
Knocking around a trailer somewhere.
No!
I don't know. I'm asking.
No, right now I'm just having fun.
You're having fun.
Doing what I want to do.
So that's just one. I mean, we were digging around. I'm sure there's a lot of other not great comments. And is that a devastating comment? No, but it's also not nice, you know?
I don't know where the assumption was. I mean, she's obviously very successful at that point, had a lot of money. I mean, she's from Louisiana. I mean, is he implying that everyone from Louisiana has kids in a trailer? I mean, I don't know. But I don't know. I don't know that anyone ever looked at, Bieber or Timberlake or anyone else, or, and
So can we talk about right now? What's the problem right now? The problem is she has no voice. It's signed away. She wanted her own attorney in the very beginning, and they denied her of that. They gave her one from the conservatorship, approved by them. And the only thing she's requested over and over and over is for her dad to be no longer in charge of it. And
that's
she's
right.
Over and over.
You're right. I don't even think she's disputed getting out of there, although it's assumed. But she just wants her father off of the control. Yeah.
I don't know whether I don't know enough about certain court aspects of it that I think in that sense, but yeah, there's obviously a huge controversy surrounding her father.
What do you think people want to see happen right now? What do you think?
I think people want to see her have free will. I think they would love to see her, release some type of a statement, however that may be, in a way that people are comfortable believing, knowing that she is having her own free influence. I think that people have confidence that she's well known enough that, look, I'm jumping all over, but to answer that, it goes back to something a lot of people brought up previously, several months ago when we were doing the podcast, was she was in this conservatorship during her last tour at Planet Hollywood. So how is it that she was well enough to go out on stage night after night? And I understand that the tour was ultimately cut short, but still, just you can and make all of this merchandising and continue to be the money train, the meal ticket, to feed the machine, but yet when you look at the actual facts that are public, at least, of the conservatorship, of what limitations and restrictions it puts on her personal decision making, something there just doesn't smell right. You can certainly say that. Just so we don't lose the thought, and then we'll go back to it, is I made a comment a few minutes ago, and I want to stick with it, just is to show Craig Ferguson. You have a clip from him who, and this was a while back, but now think of, the mindset and what we're talking about, how the world was playing pile-on, certainly the media, certainly every comedian. And I think what this guy did, man, it speaks a lot about courage and you know.
Yeah. Here we go.
This was way back when everything.
Now, I remember it's been happening in the press and the media recently, and particularly in the so-called news outlets. The way the media is looking at the world. I kind of had similar feelings when I used to watch America's Funniest Home Videos. You know, you'd be laughing at the kid falling over, and then you go, wait a minute, put down the damn camera and help your kid. What the hell is wrong with you? And I think we're kind of holding the camera, and people are falling apart. People are dying. That Anna Nicole Smith woman, she died. No, it's not a joke. You know, it stops being funny. That she's got a 6-week-old kid or 6-month-old kid. What the hell is that? You know, and I'm starting to feel uncomfortable about making fun of these people. And for me, comedy should have a certain amount of joy in it. It should be about us attacking the powerful people, attacking the politicians and the Trumps and the blowhards and going after them. We shouldn't be attacking the vulnerable people. And I think, this is totally a mea culpa, this is just for me. I think my aim's been off a bit recently. I want to change it a bit. So tonight, no Britney Spears jokes. This woman has 2 kids. She's 25 years old. She's a baby herself. She's a baby.
But I mean, me clapping here by myself probably doesn't mean much, but I'm glad that the world is clapping for that guy right now. And, man, I hope he gets like a show or something going on. Maddie wrote something in as well that I definitely want to bring up. I want to see where it was just here in front of me, unless it moved. I want to read it exactly as it is. It was just here. Do you see
Drew doesn't realize that they scroll up the more they
No, I'm scrolling and it was in front of me. Oh, it said message. Well, it says message retracted, so maybe she doesn't change her mind. But basically, I'm not going to put anyone on the spot. But basically, I'll paraphrase since she didn't want to. But how many people have we watched exhibit very questionable decisions in mental health behavior on Twitter in the last year or two, or 3 or 4, and again, without getting political or making, there's no shortage of people who, depending on what side of things you're on, absolutely would claim that someone is not well, and then millions have been supportive. People have made similar comments and claims about, or assertions. Is that a word, assertion?
Yeah.
Good. About Elon Musk. I mean, some people call him a genius, depending on what the stock price is at. Other people come back and say the guy's crazy. He's going after the SEC and making illegal comments and statements, and everyone has their own opinion on it. But it is very interesting over who society determines is eccentric, who is a mad genius. I mean, a mad genius is generally considered a compliment in our society. So, or an artist, I mean, you have people that for the first time, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but Shia LaBeouf. Yeah. It's got, it's hard to pronounce, and I'm not a fan of his movies. But most recently, for the first time, all of this abuse is coming out. How many years was the guy doing this for? Versus how the world went after this little girl. Look at Marilyn Manson. Again, I'm not there. I don't know what he did or didn't do, but the things coming out after him, Army, whatever, the cannibal dude, or alleged cannibal dude. What's his last name?
Hammer.
Right,
Yeah.
Right. So think of the things that people have been, and I get it, man. It's when I hear people use words like how misogynistic the whole Britney experience has been, and male toxicity. Yeah. I mean, it's fundamentally impossible to argue with that. I mean, there's just no other way to look at it if you have any sanity or any, reasonable side. And I have a son, but I also have 3 daughters, and there's no way in the world I would be okay or condone behavior like that from my son, and he wouldn't do it because he doesn't. He's not exposed to it, and if he sees something of that nature, his parents speak to him about it. Yeah. But
I mean, I think just unfortunately she was an easy target for the media, and I think that's what happened. And
So what's the difference between Britney and everyone else who has had any type of a breakdown in their lives, and why a conservatorship for life for her and why everyone else gets to live on.
Why this conservatorship? That's the end question. You're right.
I mean, I'm not able to get into it because it's a pending legal matter, as you guys are familiar with, and one level of it. But we've had someone most recently where their only real hard evidence was, or not evidence, but only claim on a very large thing was a personal poke at me for my general lack of being what I would say your typical average everyday person. And frankly, it was more mean-spirited. It made me laugh my ass off, and we all laughed about it. But like, you're just sitting there saying you're going to sit there and point at people and say you're different, you do this, you don't walk into a creative pitch wearing a 3-piece suit or whatever, so we're going to then claim that you're this and that. And you see how the machine works and how people bully, and how they try to team up and how they lawyer up and how they try to intimidate. And, look, I mean, she was a little girl. For me, when someone tries to bully, it fires me up, man. I say, let's frickin' go. I love it. Let's take it to the end of the world. But she didn't have that. There's a lot of people don't have that. And it's not just because she's a girl. Man, boy, grown man, grown woman. The whole bullying thing. And isn't this the epitome of bullying? I mean, we now, like, years after her breakdown and the whole thing came out, the term cyberbullying came out and all that.
Right, yeah.
I mean, why did it take so long to label that term? Wasn't this the epitome of bullying and mean-spirited abuse on any level?
I want to bring something up.
That was an editorial, sorry.
Did you guys see in the doc one of the guys who was on the conservatorship asked for a raise and said it should be looked at as more of a business?
Yeah.
So why do you think they want her in it?
That ding, ding, ding.
I don't know who they are. I don't think it's necessarily one person, but I would love if, as a whole, conservatorships for everyone, every single one, to be looked at and reevaluated.
Is this system really helping who it needs to help?
Right.
Yeah, I totally
And how
agree.
can people help? Share this. Share articles. Use your voice. That's how you raise awareness.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And one of the things that Dana brought up, we were meeting, I think it was earlier today, the days kind of blend together, sometimes good, sometimes bad. But we were talking about, again, how we ended up finding ourselves involved in the whole Britney movement and situation was the podcast that we did with Britney Spears. And there's been a lot of, we've had people from around the globe reach out to us and say, can we use some of the footage? Can we use part of the podcast? They've asked us to do interviews for the documentaries and myself and different things. And I'm not going to get into all the back and forth. I've been pretty clear about it on social media, our position on it. But what I will say is that if you saw a couple of minutes that was, or however many time, I haven't timed it, but in the documentary, I think the podcast, the full interview that we did with Brian was quite lengthy. I think it was well over an hour.
I think so, yeah.
So that podcast is in its full entirety. We made a very clear point of really, we did editing for cleaning things up if someone coughed or sneezed or what have you, or a technical issue. But generally, what you see is what you get, because we didn't want to twist anyone's words. We didn't want to write the story. We wanted to share the story that was there and let the world make their own opinions and see for what it is. And it's interesting because a lot of people reach out to me on social media. And I'm good with this, man. Healthy debate is public, and say, hey, we love that approach, that you really didn't want to be in the middle of it, and you didn't, try to shape an opinion. You tried to let him tell his side of it, keep him, on the topic at hand, and then let people make up their own mind. A lot of people, who are very passionate about the issue have a lot of anger and vitriol towards him and other people involved. And some people have been surprised, why haven't I jumped on? Some people said, why are you defending him or other people, what have you? And I think that's a fair comment that people can make, but it's one of the things that I wanted to address and just be really clear and open about from the beginning is, who am I to do that? In that sense, is that I wasn't there in the house. I don't know what he did or didn't do, what he said or didn't do. I have access to the same information that's public that a lot of people do. And that interview that we did, we shared the whole thing of it. He didn't say some key critical moments that we said, oh, let's not put this in the interview.
Right.
So my takeaway from that is, I don't know. I really, I don't know. I think that he really did want to speak. I think he had a lot of things to say. I'm not surprised that when people come back and say, why doesn't he speak out more? I don't know what someone in his situation could say that wouldn't have 1,000 people instantly shutting it down. But at the same point, I'm not putting him up on a pedestal by any means. I mean, there's a lot of, issues and, and I think the interview stands for itself. So if people saw that in the documentary, again, I'm not going to go deeper into that as far as how it got in the documentary. I'm glad that the documentary is raising awareness in a positive way. We'll leave it at that. But I think people should expose themselves to the entire full podcast, and then it can also have an even more deeper look into really the closest family member to her that has spoken that bluntly, that openly. In any recent history and for such a length of time. I mean, we had no limitations. People said, how much did you pay him? Not a penny. We wouldn't do that. Never happened in a million years.
He didn't ask.
That's right. That's 100% true. You said he didn't ask and there was no request. And then at the same point, what questions were off the table? Nothing. We would never have someone as a guest if there were limitations. We've had people that would have been phenomenal guests as far as attention or people swarming, and
Tara Girl said, I was so grateful for Brian speaking up. I agree. It shed light on anything.
Agreed.
He got a lot of crap from a lot of people. You can't make everyone happy, but he at least shed light to the situation, and I think we're a little bit farther now than we were before because of that.
The exposure certainly did. I mean, look, it kept it in the news. It really, to that point that we said earlier, went to bed, or the day that it came up, a lot of people have asked about that. You guys had said to me, we were going through our schedule, and do you want to speak to the Britney Spears brother, Brian? I said, Brian who? And you said, Brian Spears. And we were in my office going through all the content, and, one thing led to another, and it was very clear that I was vaguely familiar with the case. I'd caught a couple of news things. I hadn't grown up a Britney Spears music fan, although I respected and appreciated her music and was very familiar with it. And I ultimately said, as you guys kept saying, you should really do this interview. It'll be interesting. I said, okay, but I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. So just make sure, let them know that we'll do the interview. But if it doesn't have an angle or a story or really bring something to light that people would be interested in, I'm not going to run with it, and I don't want to hurt any feelings. That was I truly had no. So then the next day we did the interview, we put it right out, and I woke up in the morning and we had calls from, I think it was the Today Show in Australia or Good Morning America in Australia. I was getting texts and emails from people I hadn't seen in many, many, many years since high school, or seeing it all over the news and the thing. And then as we started to read into it, realized, man, this isn't about a brother, and this is so much bigger than even any one individual. This is about, again, mental health, awareness, human rights, conservatorships, and people who watch the podcast will even realize how far we've come. I can actually say the word conservatorship during the podcast. I pronounced it wrong 5 different times, and I made a couple of errors that, and I was very honest at the time and said, if you ask me anything about, certain topics or people or even in pop culture, I can, tell you like everything about Springsteen and probably know more about his 3 kids than maybe he does at times. But when it came to Britney Spears, I even, was not like in the knowledge of that, like I was not a raving fan and had that, but I think that it was so helpful that I wasn't skewed by it, and we were able to literally just have a genuine dialogue about the topic, and let him tell his story. So, that's our thing, is that watch the whole thing for yourself and share any opinions, questions, comments.
I was just thinking. I know how Diane Sawyer can apologize, and Perez Hilton and all of the people that mental health shamed her. They can help raise awareness. Yeah. They can help use their
platform that they have.
Yes, that's how you can apologize, because words mean nothing at this point.
Yeah, I hope Diane Sawyer makes a statement. I really do.
I'm very upset by that.
Yeah.
I hope she does not get a pass. And again, I'm not saying that she needs to be banished for the rest of her life or what have you. But I think that she needs to speak on this and come back and say, what has she learned from it?
Yeah, make it right.
We hold people accountable. You have people, if they make an inappropriate comment, a racist comment, a homophobic comment, and it happens often way too much, but we don't just say, okay, moving on, maybe it was a slip. It's, you got some learning to do that clearly came from a place. So it'd be really key to hear from her, what have you learned? How do you see things differently now, if you do?
Sorry. Just on an ending note, I wanted to play this clip, which was from the Diane Sawyer, and I think it's just, looking back, it's just so telling, and I think it's a good place to leave everyone. So just let me play this real quick.
He's great.
Doesn't he worry you, though?
Talking about Michael Jackson.
Baby over the balcony kind of Michael Jackson?
Well, I think maybe growing up like such a young age, and it's probably affected him somewhat, and maybe it's but I think he's a great person at heart, and I just think maybe he needs me to call him, maybe. He probably needs some friends around him, to be honest, or,
You think all the stuff written about?
Call. He probably needs some friends, which is, I just think that's a good place to wrap this up, right?
Yeah. So anyone who is watching live now, or who watches when we play it back again, which we will on our YouTube, hopefully above all else, that the message from all of this is that the world hopefully right now is in a little bit, at least, of a better, kinder place, and will be more sensitive and open if someone asks for help, and hopefully we can all be more on the lookout for when someone may need for help, and we don't have to wait until they either find a way to ask, or maybe they never do find a way and it's too late. So we appreciate everyone joining us. The topic, all of our friends over at the Free Britney movement. Adrian, remind everyone where they should tune into right now.
Don't forget to subscribe as well.
Subscribe to us, please, on our YouTube. That is true. I forgot. I'm the worst salesperson in the world. I don't even plug our own stuff. But as not seen on TV, subscribe, love us, or don't, but just share your information and thoughts with us either way.
Leave us your comments, and I'm putting the join virtual rally up here on the screen. I think it's also in the chats as well, the link to it. Perfect. So show your support. Head on over to the virtual rally.
All right, and best of luck to Britney and anyone who is in that type of a situation, for sure. We will be doing more.
Yep.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
All right, make sure that Logan cuts it.
Right?
We should get a clapper. Can we get a clapper for when we come on set and stuff and start and end and roll?
But that's the thing.